Hey all, and welcome to our new weekly update episode 2. And in today's episode we will be checking the new 15 decks that I did draft in this weekend. Other than that, I guess since it is the week 2 of the format, we could be talking a bit on how I feel the format has shaped and which decks have I seen most or I felt were the most dominant one. And other than that, I will mention an archetype that maybe I did discover and the one that I am looking forward on experimenting more and trying out. But without further ado, let's just dive in and let's check the first part, the first 15 decks that we drafted. So starting with the first deck that I did have in this weekend was the green-white creature deck Heroes Enchantments, which was featuring the Rick Jones. Idea with this one was that we actually did not have many misses with it. Actually, the most of the decks were hit because like a lot of creatures were heroes. Plus, if you see it, every of our enchantment or removals were enchantment. But unfortunately, the deck did not play as I maybe intended it to play. I felt like the deck did seem nice because it did have Avengers Assemble, Training Regimen, like pretty good curve out. But the deck was unfortunately lacking in a mana department, in a, I don't know, like getting a good keepable hands. We were mulliganing a lot. We had a lot of like mulligan to 5 with these decks. And it felt short, I don't know. I'm not sure what exactly could have been done better. Yes, we are playing Titania, which aren't actually heroes, but I think that Titania just overall, if you're a curve out deck and you have like go nuts, that just slamming a 3 mana 5/5 against some matches you can end the game. But the deck did not play as maybe I intended it. One thing to mention was the supervillain lockups. They haven't felt the greatest in this multiple, especially with not having the 2-drop like the Rafts that can tap, or maybe the Quake Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. which can tap. So there were matches where I lost because I had them in the hand and I played against the Vision and like the 5 mana 4/4 Vigilance Flyer. So like the Vigilance creatures were just being really annoying against me. Only way we could kill them was if opponent would make a mistake by like casting a teamwork card and them ending up on tapping it that we can use the lockup. So multiple lockups did not feel that great without having a reliable like source of having a way of tapping their stuff. But yet again, the card that did surprise me was this. It actually felt really good because it felt like a 3 mana draw card most of the time. And then yet again, if you see this, like we have like Training Regimen that could grow it. We have the Assembly card that would most likely just like grow our other stuff. But yeah, the deck ended up on not getting there. We did go 1 and 2. One thing that I would like if I could change was to maybe have like 10 green and 7, or like have a dual land to support the mana so we can play Hellcats more likely on curve. But yeah, the deck did fall a bit short and it didn't end up on getting there. Checking the second draft deck of this weekend, draft deck 13. Unfortunately, this one as well did not trophy, but it was a pretty interesting deck to play. I think this is the first time that we actually did end up on putting that to our enemies in a deck. And the logic behind this one being in the deck was because we did have the Cyber Drive Awakener. This card says when it does enter, it makes all non-creature artifacts into a 4/4, and every other artifact you do have gains flying. So idea was to like make the treasures and then make them into a 4/4s. If you think about it, that's like 16 powers in the air coming in, if this did go to the chapter 4. And we were playing a lot of other things that could maybe support it, like Energy Dagger, Forge, even the 2 Quinjets that could become a 4/4s. The idea was to make automatons big and then yet again give them flying to try to end the game. We have the robots that were pinging, but overall like it was a cute artifact deck. Unfortunately, I don't remember the loss, how we did lose that one match, but definitely the card that did surprise me was the Awakener. Like it is actually a solid build around. I was thinking like if there were gonna be enough like things where you can make them into like a 4/4s, but I think it's not even needed. Just giving your artifacts like automatons or sentinel flying sometimes is enough to end the game. So yeah, this deck was cute, but it wasn't good enough on getting the distance or getting the trio. Seems like on Monday I was forcing a bit the green-white. This was a draft deck 14 or the third draft deck on the Monday. It was yet again the green-white, and this time we did not have Avenger Assembles. We just did have like a decent curve and decent tricks to follow it up. The deck ended up going 2-1 as well, though it wasn't I would say deck's fault. It was the opponents were just a bit too tough to beat. They were playing the 4-mana blue rare, the one that does connive on curve 2 times in a row, and they did follow up with the 1-4 that makes Merfolk. So for this deck, I ended up not like getting a removal, and the 1-3 conniver was just like a menace to beat, and we were like trying to race with them with a super strength, which on first place maybe for some people seems like this card is bad, but with this deck where I have like prowess creatures and I did have the Captain America, this can be like an overrun effect, right? If you put it here, this gives all your creatures +5/+5, so that can just end the game. Or if you put it on the War Machine, you give another creature like +5 power, and that can be that momentum that you need with this type of decks to just like close the games as fast as possible. Overall, the deck was good. Nothing really did surprise me. I think all of the cards have played well, as expected. But with this one, we were mostly like boarding in, like we did have some option of boarding into a Cloak and Dagger or Thor, plus we did have the dual lands to support it. So depending on the match, if I feel like I need another evasive threat, I was boarding in the Thor and Jessica for like card advantage. But if I felt like, I don't know, I need a pretty good blocker and a way of dealing with some tokens, or just opponent has like pretty good spells, I was boarding into Cloak and Dagger. So this one did have like a transformatable sideboard. But yeah, sometimes the rares are too tough to beat, and this deck did fall short and just did go 2-1. Overall, the deck was good. Hell Carrier was okay. I mean, making 2 bodies felt good. We had a Black Panther, so getting 2 creatures and then later on like pumping your all didn't feel bad, and sometimes just having like a crew 6 for a blocker or evasive threat felt like an okay one. Draft deck 15, this one was actually getting the distance. This one did end up on trophying, and in this one we did have double the vision. On Monday, I actually did face this card a lot, so I think like in the previous 3 decks, you did see 2 of the decks did face this card like maybe 1 or 2 times. So the Monday boss was definitely the vision. On Tuesday, we ended up getting the visions, not 1 but 2. And with that, we were actually trying to make it as best as it can be. With this deck, we were featuring like a higher accrue, the card that I would maybe not be expecting that I would play. But it was a creature, and we did have like a pretty good curve, right? We have a lot of 2-drops. So maybe having a higher accrue to like attack into 1/3s would not be the worst. Or just when we have a vision to have a way of triggering it. Or if we go wide with a Hell Carrier, it can like help us. One card that did actually surprised me a lot with this deck was the Avengers Tower. It felt really good with like a curve out deck to have a utility land where if the game does go long, this is like just giving us a lot of card draw, because like most of the creatures in red-white are actually heroes. Overall, the deck was clean. Agent 13 was doing its work. I mean, this card is just pretty damn good, especially if you have a curve, right? We do here have a lot of 2-drops, which we wanted to play as many since we are playing 2 Agent 13s. We want to make sure that the Investigate would happen. But everything here felt good. One more reason for Hell Carrier in this deck was that we were playing Political Triumph, so having a creature that can actually trigger it for twice felt decent. But I think this card never did show up in any of the games, even though we did play like, I don't know, 6 or 7 games with this deck. But yeah, Spike Kit was great, Super Speed was great, all of this 1 mana, non-creature stuffs are great with the vision, and yeah. Draft deck 16 was Naya deck where we are featuring the Hulk, and this deck has felt really good. It did go the distance, so this one did go 3-0. Cards that were amazing with this one were Jessica's, as expected, because this card, if it is unchecked, just like prints you a lot of value. With this deck, we didn't have many ways of pumping it in the form of equipments. We were rather pumping it with a Royal Guard, and sometimes, if it has to be the case, with the Patriots. Mana base felt good. We had like many ways of splashing the white card that we were. Plus, we did have a backup as a way of like finding our lands. Kerberos felt great because ramping us into our 6-drop, so we can maybe play the Bruce a bit earlier. And yet again, we did have a way of playing the Bruce on the front side, if you see it. We did have 2 Skrulls and 2 Ant-Man's army, plus the Avengers Tower. So there was actually a match where I did play the front side and just like activate the draw X part for like X equals 4. And in that way, just making sure opponent cannot come back when it comes to the value. This deck did have a lot of ways of drawing cards, like Bruce is one way, Jessica is another, Herbie, Operatives. So the deck was really resilient when it comes to the late game, because we did have a lot of ways of making sure that A, we are curving out with 2, 3 into 4, 5, and then B, a lot of our cards can possibly draw cards. Even the Avenger the Towers, even though it doesn't seem like we have a lot of heroes, it actually has a possibility of maybe hitting a Royal Guard, maybe hitting the Jessica, or maybe the Bruce Banner fighting it, right? Plus the 2 drops. So yeah, pretty good deck. It felt good. Just the Naya, good stuff, good curve out, and good resilient card draw with the big butts. The draft deck 17 of the format, I felt sad that this one didn't get there. This one did have double Vision Quest and double Barrage. So with this deck, we were actually playing 18 lands. Since lands were not our enemies, we really did like the lands. We had double scout units, so making sure that we can actually play the lands faster. And other than that, we did have the Hawkeye, that was pretty good combo with the Photon Blast Barrage. We did have double Abomination, Terrifying Titan, so the lands were just really good with this deck. The deck didn't get there. The deck did end up on going 2-1, and if you believe it or not, the deck did lose because it actually did not hit, if I remember, that land 3 on time. So even if you play 18 lands, sometimes you actually don't end up on getting there. The card that was great, or now that I confirm is great, is the Vision's Quest. Actually, you don't need a Vision to find with the Vision's Quest. Sometimes Herbie does it, or even the Automaton, if you need the artifact with Trample to end the game. But yeah, you can just read this is a 6 mana 6/5 flyer that does draw your card, if you do have the Herbies, right? So this one was pretty good finisher. And other than that, one card that did surprise me was the Wonder Man, and how the power up works with him. That I was not aware, because I was not thinking at the moment when I was playing it. But if you do play it and you have 9 mana, you can immediately make it into an 8/8, because you can activate the power up twice, and he alone makes it cost 2. If you do have 9 mana, yes, you would just make it into an 8/8. Same with the Abomination. Like if you have the mana and you have enough with this guy, you can just maybe try to use the power up more times. Overall, the deck was good. It felt great. One Stark Industries Executive felt really amazing, especially when we did have Herbies in hand, since like the whole point of this deck, I would say, was to play this card as fast as possible, because this is our glue towards deck. It makes sure that we do get to our late game and then use our powerful cards like Vision and Photon Blast Barrage. And the Forges plus Herbie Scout units made sure that this deck will have a lot of value when it comes to the late game, because those cards can draw a lot of cards. Seeing how the Herbies played really well, this deck was featuring 4 of them, and this time we did have Vision's Quest with the Vision. This deck did get there. It did go 3-0, but this one was trying its best impression on trying to make sure this is actually a 3-drop in the deck, since we did have double Helper, Shuri and Stark, making sure that we can actually cast the Herbie Scout unit on turn 3. I think this is a legit thing for Izzet, that you could just be trying your best on making sure you play this as fast as possible, so like making sure your 2 drops and maybe 1 drops are supporting that plan, and then playing as many late game cards like Vision's Quest, I don't know, the Barrage, maybe the Hulk if I did have it. This deck was playing the Weekend. Weekend was actually not bad, since if you think about it, like flickering Herbies is a really nice value that you can get. Like you can block and then flicker, so makes the opponent's attacks worse. And in this one we did try the Shields Flying Car. It felt really good. It was like supporting the Vision and the Weekend plan a bit more. But yeah, this deck was awesome. It did go 3-0. It was pretty clean. Like if I would need to compare this deck to previous one, I think the difference is that this deck was better on making sure that you can play this card on turn 3. But the previous one was maybe better when it comes to the late game, right? Because it did have double the vision plus double the barrage with the Hulk. So yeah, I think this is a legit thing for Izzet, that you just like make sure the 2 drops are helping this, and then make sure that you have a pretty solid reasoning why you are getting into the late game. This deck, I'm not gonna talk much now about it, since there is a YouTube video where I did upload it on the score. It did go 3-0. And maybe this was the best deck that I did have in this weekend. It was featuring that to our enemies, and I'm not gonna talk much about it. You can check the video later on, since I am gonna mention this archetype again. I will cover this, but yeah, you can watch this if you're interested on how this deck did go. But yeah, it did go the distance, and it was a pretty clean deck, if I would have to say so. Draft deck 20 of the format was a red-white, and this draft started with a War Leader's Call. The idea after taking this one was to take as many 1s and 2s that I possibly can. Plus I did have the Hawkeye, so anytime we do play a creature, it does deal a lightning bolt to them. And this deck was playing triple Spike Hit and double Hawkeye's Bow. The deck felt really strong, I would say. I really like the combo of Crowd of True Believers with a Spike Hit, where immediately in the game after a turn 2, you have a 3/3 attacker that is giving you a +1 life. These 2 cards do really go well. And this deck was really great when it comes to like ending the games, because we did have double Hawkeyes, Hawkeye, Young Avenger, plus the War Leader's Call, so it was really strong when it came to ending the games. We did have double Okoye, plus double backup. Yet again, sometimes variance does happen. I ended up like risking in one of the matches where I kept, if I recall, a 3-land hand or a 4-land hand, and I was keeping a Spike Hit, Bow, and Hellcarrier Strike. And I was on the play, and I was just hoping to draw any creature, because like the first creature with a Spike Hit would just snowball on making sure I would keep on drawing gas. But unfortunately, if I recall, on top 6 cards of our deck after keeping that hand, we did not have any creature, so unfortunately we ended up on losing that match. I would say that this deck was really good, and I'm sad that it did not get there, but yet again, War Leader's Call did play as expected. Cards that did surprise me were Spike Hit and Crowd of True Believers, how amazing they are. And yeah, just like overall good red-white, go wide, ping you out, win the game type of deck. Draft deck 21 didn't get there. This deck, I would say, was maybe a train wreck, because we were in the mixed archetypes, or we were playing some cards that maybe the deck would not want to play. Like, I don't know, we were playing the equipments because we did have the Whiplash and Ronin, and I felt like just the equipments are good because I have like Super Skrull, so maybe having a indestructible equipment would be great to get there. But yeah, the deck did not play maybe as expected. We were in the mixture of archetypes, like we had a Constructor Cosmic Cube, so we were interested on playing as many Connive cards as we did have. I don't know, we had the Avengers Under the Siege, so maybe having like a curve out with the villains would feel great, but the deck did not play as great as maybe as I would want it to play. Card that we did try in this one was Rewrite the History. Even though I did not have many instant and sorceries, it felt like kinda important to go through the deck. And yet again, with the Constructor Cosmic Cube, you could actually maybe get the 3/2/1s while you're doing that. But having a way of returning like removals maybe felt like something that it was needed, so I did end up on trying this card in this deck. And yet again, I did have like some 1s and 2s, so maybe the curve could support this. But yeah, the deck felt short. It ended up going 1 and 2. It did not succeed in what it was trying to do. I think the biggest flaw of the deck, if I would have to choose one, was that I was playing some cards that maybe this card does not want. So like maybe carrying the Whiplash package with the equipments and Ronin, and maybe adding some other cards that could maybe support this plan better, would have played a bit better for this deck. Draft deck 22 of the format was yet again a green-white. This one was a Kerbal deck where we were featuring a Training Regimen as our top end card. We were playing, as you can see, a lot of 2-drops and 3-drops, and idea was to play this and then make sure that our 2s and 3s can just keep on pushing and then ending the game. The deck felt really good, I would say. Unfortunately, I did mess up the last match, and that mistake did cost me the game. I thought that this guy can get like multiple counters on a turn, but unfortunately does say this ability triggers only once each turn, and that mistake ended up costing me that game and the match. Overall, I would say the deck was pretty good. Just the green-white beats and having like pretty clean interaction while having a training regimen, making sure that our threats are gonna be there for the later parts of the game felt really good. So yeah. Definitely a deck that I would try again, and I think this is the shell that I like it, at least. Just playing as many 1, 2, 3s and then playing this as the top end. We did play the Herbie Scout unit. The reasoning for this was I felt like it's not bad to have a card that does rebuy itself, plus maybe sometimes like ramping us while being aggressive deck might not be bad. And yet again, it is an evasive threat, so maybe putting a counter is there could end up on mattering, so yeah, we ended up on playing this one. I would say that this draft deck played itself. I mean, we were splashing a lot, as you can see. We were splashing a Killmonger, Leader, and we were base red-black. This draft deck started a bit different. We started as green. We ended up on getting an alien invasion fast, and like we did pick up some go nuts. Idea early in the draft was to maybe be green-red, splash the black. But I mean, fortunately or unfortunately enough, Leader of Super Genius was passed to me, and after that being passed, I said to myself, okay, I gotta make this card work. Let's just like train drag this draft deck into making this possible, and we did make it possible. Mana was actually pretty decent with the deck, if I would say. If you think about it, one thing that I did realize was the Backstreet's Building is the best land when it comes to splashing, because this land splashes any card, right? It makes it cost you 1 more, but for the 4 mana, it just gives you any combination of colors, so this land alone can splash a Leader of Super Genius. Boo-hoo, you play a 10-5, but yes, you play Super Genius yet again on the game, and you make sure you can actually win the game. This deck did have many rares. We did have Wrecking Crew, we did have the Black Widow, we had Ares, Leader, and MODOK. And if you think about it, some uncommons are rares as well, like Killmonger and Madame are pretty good. So just a really strong Grixis rare deck, and the deck was playing as expected, and it ended up getting there. Hideout was amazing. I really like how Hideout plays with the Madame, and yet again with the Leader Super Genius, because like it can be another way of drawing a card. But the deck was just pretty strong, and it did get there. This was an interesting deck that I didn't expect to get there. It did end up on going there and got a distance. It was trying the thing that I was saying, like playing the 2 drops that can actually help us on playing the 4 drops as fast as possible. On this one, unfortunately, during the draft, we haven't seen any Herbies, so we had to play operatives, but I don't think operatives are bad. They are actually pretty good as well, since these ones do have the prowess, and then like yet again they can make sure that they attack for more. The way we were winning most of the times was because of Jessica. It is a card that stays on the board, and if it is unchecked, it just like prints you the value. And War Machine, how it played with an I'm an Iron Man, ends up on like sneaking in a lot of damage, especially if we have other evasive threats like a Doombot. Card that was making sure that we can win the game was the Captain American Shield. I don't know, this card is just nuts. If you do play it and then equip it on one of your creatures, it just makes sure that you are attacking and they don't really have an attack into you. Most of the time we were equipping this on the Kree Sentinel, and like one of the matches this deck did beat was against the blue-white, and that deck did have the 1/3 rare scientist that we have seen, the 4 blue one. It did have the Sentry, and it did have the Captain Marvel. So they did have all of those 3 blue-white rares in that deck, and this deck was just like, I don't even care. I have many ways of passing it through. Captain American Shield, Frozen in Ice, and just making sure that we are getting there. One card that did surprise me in this type of decks was the Energy Dagger. I think in the decks where you are having a lot of ways of generating mana with like Helper or maybe Shuri, just because this discounting your cards, having an Energy Dagger to play and then like equipping your War Machine or Jessica, or just making sure that they're never gonna pass through because you make a Helper into a 4/5, make sure that you are getting into the late game part, which might be favorable for you. But yeah, just making sure that if the game goes to the board stair, you have an energy dagger, and then this is like an equipment you can move around. If you think about it, it still is a card that you gotta play, and then it is like maybe a -1 when it comes to impacting the board. But if you do get to the game where you are actually having the mana to equip, then the energy dagger can play a big role. Plus, like, this deck was having a ways of drawing cards, like with the operatives, and yeah. One cute interaction that I really love when it comes to Energy Dagger, and maybe in this version Captain America's Shield, is the I'm an Iron Man. Sometimes people do forget about this card. They're thinking that I'm gonna be casting it on the Helper, but no, we can use it on our indestructible equipments and make them into a 4/4 blockers. So even if they end up on having a damage-based removal, they're not gonna be able on using it. This one was a bit funny because after seeing the Superhero Civil War, I think it was the pack 2, I did mention how in 25 drafts that I ended up playing in this format, I have not faced this card, and I have not seen it in either of the drafts. So this, after seeing it, I said, okay, we gotta try it. I know it is a bomb, everybody's saying it is a bomb, I gotta see it. And first match that I play against was against the Superhero Civil War. Luckily for us, our deck was resilient and we were able on getting there. But yeah, this was like a blue-white deck that was trying to play a lot of cards that can target your creatures. We did have double Colin Wing, we did have the Ace Agent, and we even did have the Miss Marvel. But Miss Marvel never did show up, so I don't even want to mention it. Like, none of the games I think I did play this, even though I was supporting it by playing a lot of the cards that could have targeted my creatures. Overall, it was a pretty decent curve out deck. Superhero Civil War, even if you see that I'm not playing a mountain, I was playing double Surveillance Room. So my logic was, yes, I do want to splash this, but I didn't want to play a colorless land as a mountain. So I ended up putting Surveillance Rooms. I felt like Surveillance Rooms most likely wouldn't cost me that much, since like we are more on the white base deck than we are on the blue. And yet again, I don't really care if I'm playing this card turn 5 or turn 6, so having a surveil land, it will make sure that I'm either hitting the land drops or hitting the cards that I wanted to play actually pretty well. I don't think there were any matches where I have felt this land and I was like, oh, if it was another island or if it was another plains, I would have a better keepable hand. But yeah, I would say this idea by splashing this with the Surveillance Rooms has been pretty good in this like curve out type of decks. And the last deck that we are gonna check is the Sultai villain team. I don't know how to name it. It started with the Construct a Cosmic Cube, but unfortunately for us, we were not past any good ways of making sure that we get a draw 2. I think this was the thing that did happen with this draft. I ended up on switching the lane in pack 3, which I usually say that it is never correct. Usually if you're switching the lane, you should be doing it in pack 2, not in pack 3. But unfortunately for me, I felt like the deck was lacking a lot, so it had to do like the last switch, which was like in pack 3 I ended up taking double Skrulls, like the Absorbing Man, and like the green cards to support the deck. I think overall the plan of the deck was pretty good. Unfortunately, it did not get there. It did end up actually on going 1 and 2. But the deck was featuring a lot of good cards, like the removals were great. We were playing actually the Multiversal Incursion, and I would say that this card hasn't felt bad. Like if you are copying any of these 3 drops or maybe even the 5s or 4s, it has felt really good. I think the matches I ended up winning was because I played this. And the matches I lost was because I did face the rare that I jinxed myself, that I did say I did not face in 25 drafts. In 25th, and in this one we ended up playing against that Boros rare, and it did prove why it is like one of the better rares in the set. So yeah, definitely jinxed myself with that one. But yeah, I would say that this deck wasn't bad. It was, I'm not sure what was it lacking. Maybe more Skrulls to support it, but yeah, I did like how the deck felt, but unfortunately wasn't good enough on making sure that it can give us the distance. So when it comes to like how I feel the meta has evolved, I think a lot of people are currently trying to end up in white, and white feels like a color that is most of the time contested during the draft. I mean, I don't blame them. A lot of the commons in this color pair, and like yet again this Shield Spy Kit equipment feels really good in this type of decks. Like I did mention, Shield Spy Kit and the 1-drops, like these ones are already on turn 2 attacking for 3. And yet again, with the Scry one, they're making sure that they're gonna be curving out, and with the untap, making sure that you're not gonna be attacking into them. So definitely the white has feel like a dominant color currently in the set. One card that I do think that maybe can shine more because the meta, or it feels like that, is maybe the Hulk Smash. This is a type of a card that can maybe even 3-for-1 them if you think about it. They attack you with a 1-drop that does have the Spy Kit, you Hulk Smash the equipment, you maybe eat the blocker, and then maybe you can pick up another creature. So maybe this card goes a bit higher on my rating value of the cards, because like how good it can play currently in the set. But yeah, I would say white is mostly dominant, or the curve out decks, and then the second color would be blue, or maybe even combine white blue. But I was facing a lot of white black decks as well, the equipment team one. But yeah, it feels like the Spy Kit is the card to figure out how you beat, because like a lot of people are trying to, I would say, abuse this card. It is a pretty strong card, a short sword with a huge upside. And yeah, there hasn't felt like there were a lot of, I don't know, control decks, or like a lot of good value late game type of decks. It felt like most of the time it is just like a equipment orientated white blue tempo type of deck, or just the curve out decks. So I would say the currently format, or decks that do feel dominant currently feel like they are either base white or base blue. Now I want to talk a bit about the archetype that I wouldn't say I discovered. I think a lot of people did try to play that to our enemies, and I think this is a deck to figure out. Why do I say this? Is because like if you do see them early on, as maybe if you did watch in our video, we did see 3 of this in pack 1. I think it's a legit thing to try to commit to this and then figure out how to make this card as best as possible. Currently my idea is that it is best if I can be maybe white black, and maybe how I would approach the draft with it is to take early on black good cards like good black removal, and then if I see that to our enemy's wheel, or I see many of them, try to commit to this and then go for a lot of cards that are good for that shell, like Vision of Love, Cold Damage Control, or just any good draw card. One card that I did not have with this deck is the 6 mana villain that actually can tutor for a plan. I think that one is really important if you're gonna try this idea. Why do I think that is? Because I felt like most of the time when I was losing the games was because I was not playing that to our enemies turn 3. Or I have not seen it in the top 20 cards even. So I think this card, if you are building towards it, and one of the matches that I did play with this deck, I ended up just winning with this card. I did not deal a single damage in combat, I just did deal 21 damage with this card. So yeah, I would say for this archetype, maybe stay in black early on, because like it's good enough if you see white open to end up in black-white. But if you do see this, that to our enemies, maybe try it out as a build around, and then yet again maybe experiment it in some different manner. Maybe play the 2-drop that does ping when the artifact enters. Maybe play the 3-drop that does grow when an artifact enters. I think there is more room to experiment with this card. And yet again, if the people on the pod are not appreciating this card, this is a card that you could be appreciating if you do figure out the home for it. So I would say that this is a card to discover for the next week if you do end up on having a chance to draft it, and see like what are the limits of this card, how are the deck support supposed to look. Was this like a lucky draft deck that I ended up on having because I got them early on in the pack, or was it like a legit thing to even run this deck with maybe 2 copies, 1 copy? Like all of those things are the questions that I would like to answer or ask myself next time that I'm drafting with this, because I think this is like an archetype. If you figure out or have an understanding on how to draft, you can have maybe the edge comparing to the rest of the pod that you're drafting with. So that does it for the weekly update 2. I hope you did like this one as well. Same as the previous one. If you do like any deck and would like to talk more about them, you can just type in the comments, hey, I want to talk more about draft deck, I don't know, 18, and then we can maybe discuss about it. Or if you do want and maybe are interested on watching the gameplay and the draft footage, I can video edit that and upload it on YouTube. I hope you did like this one. If you did and you made it this far, one thing that I would love to ask you guys is if you would like to leave a like, comment to help out the algorithm, and if you're not, please subscribe to the channel. It's a free thing to do and it helps me out a lot. Until next time, cheers, and I'm gonna see you next week with a new weekly update. Bye bye.